Right.
Golden celery, is that new? No. You can't go to Clive and Rylag. You see a Zarb gurgle gently as it falls to the ground, the victim of a small blade to the throat. A tall man in dark armor wipes the blade clean on his cloak before padding onwards towards the next guard. Another flash, and the second Zarb is down, and the next, and the next. Finally, the scout spots him and raises a shout. Between one step and another, the man smoothly deposits the knife in his boot, and draws two long swords, decapitating the closest Zarb in the process. He makes no sound but the sleek whistle of his blades as they pass through monster after monster, before one lodges in the skull of one particularly hard-headed specimen. Unable to break it free, he discards his other sword and reaches for his spellbook. A cone of flames erupts from his hand, boiling the skin from three agonized Zarbs nearby and causing the remaining to scatter. The earth shakes and spikes of rock begin to pierce the surface as the nearby Zarb high priest attacks, a moment too late as the bespelled man moves unnaturally quickly from ground to ground, attacking the remaining Zarbs with sword and spell. Sweat burns his eyes as he conjures an enormous ball of fire, sending it screaming through the air towards the high priest and her remaining followers. Nothing but charred corpses remain after it passes. He falls to his knees, panting, almost fourscore Zarbs fallen around him. Just as he moves to get up, the ground begins to shake once more. Twice, 3 times. Huge footsteps, and then he dives behind a rock spike. Returning volley of fire, singeing his cloak. The Drake has noticed him. You see a fallen log lying on the moss-covered ground. The surrounding woods are quiet, everything calm and undisturbed. A small bird lands on one end of the log, warming itself in the sun. This man emerges from the trees, moving quickly, but not quite running. He places each foot with a deliberate precision, making almost no noise. He jumps, landing on the log, and runs along its length. Only when he reaches the end does the bird take flight, startled as if it didn't realize he was there. He jumps down from the log, standing next to a tree, with a small branch jutting out from it, just above waist level. He grabs the branch and pulls himself forward, giving him a short-lived burst of speed. He is coming to the edge of the forest. The buildings can now be seen through the trees. Sounds of life make their way through the air and to his ears. He leans forward, running to push his way through the tree line and onto the road beyond. He pulls himself up short and looks around, breathing heavily from the exertion. He doesn't seem to find what he's looking for and takes the place leaning on a nearby building. Several minutes pass and he smiles, pushing himself off the wall and walking out to meet a figure running up the road, breathing heavily and shaking its head. He informs the figure that he's going to have to try harder if there's any chance of beating him. He puts an arm around the other man's shoulder, reminds him that there was an ale at stake, and says it's about time to pay up. You see this woman lounging on a large divan. She takes dates from an ornate glass bowl and stuffs them absent-mindedly into her mouth while she stares out the window. She's unkempt, half-dressed, and occasionally yawns, seeming bored with her surroundings. Her room shares the same unkempt look, as if it hasn't been cleaned in weeks. A layer of dust covers everything. Clothes and partially eaten food litter the floor, and the furniture is in need of upkeep and repair. A knock comes from the door to her chamber, and she lets out a quiet grunt, ignoring it. She grabs another handful of dates and starts throwing them into the air, one at a time, attempting to catch them in her mouth. She frequently misses, the dates bouncing to the floor, forming a makeshift ring around the divan. The knock comes again, and she jumps, missing yet another date, which hits her head in the forehead before rolling away. She grunts and looks at the door, exhaling sharply through her nose. A muffled and distant yell comes from somewhere outside the room. She rolls over on her side, facing away from the door, and pulls a pillow over her head, trying to drown out the noise. She lies there for several minutes, eyes slowly closing as she slips into sleep. The door opens and someone enters the room, hesitantly making his way over to the floor to stand by the divan. He reluctantly reaches out and touches her shoulder, shaking it gently. The pillow falls from her head and she turns to the man, a confrontational look on her face. "Mistress," he says, kneeling before her, "we need your help." The woman sighs heavily, rolling her eyes, and starts to stand. She grabs one handful of dates and walks from the room, chewing noisily.
Good day to you.
The guard gives you an appraising eye. "You've recently come to drive Deerfoot, I take it. I don't suppose you saw a young elven noblewoman on the road. I'm stuck in this wretched place with the rest of it, my unit, until we find her." "Who is she?" "Lady Ayla's." He bites his lip. "She's the daughter of Lord Nestor Heron, and she's gone missing." He sighs. "Perhaps you could speak to Lord Heron at the inn. He'll be grateful for the assistance, and it could be the villagers will open up to you more than they have to us." Oh. Oh, another drug made of sacred and uncommon plant that grows deep in Irglanfath. Carogalin is the name given to a mixture typically used for ceremonial purposes, or else by warriors going into important battles. It is said to open one's awareness to one's place in the world, raising one's ability to recognize and react to threats. Damn Gallowayne for monsters like that, and damn the rest of the gods too. Can't remember the last time we had a healthy birth in the village. So they're all affected by the Hollowborn, but that one, what's his name? Redrick was punishing his people at that village just because he wanted to have a baby. I mean a regular baby. The mill slowly grinds away at a throw of grain. Oh. Have you been to Defiance Bay? I heard there's no Hollowborn there. That lord staying at the Dracogen has just about worn out his welcome. Oh. A man paces angrily in front of a wrecked animal pen, his sun-weathered face twisted with ire. He's so wrapped up in his fury that he doesn't seem to notice you. Galloway's slobbering beasts, blazing bloody effigy, thrice damned salty wench and her soggy. What's wrong? That monster stole my pigs. Traipsed into the village, tore down my pen, and made off with a whole damn herd. Just left a few little runs, and what am I supposed to do with them? Calm down and tell me what happened. He bites his lip and closes his eyes. His nostrils flare with each quick, angry breath. Wife's always telling me to mind my temper. Just breathe deep and count to 10, he sighs. An ogre moved into the area not long ago. Folk had been seeing glimpses and tracks out in the wood, but it seemed to be staying away from town, or so we all thought, until it made off with my pigs. Now everyone's afraid it's going to develop a taste for kith, if it hasn't already. Did you see the ogre take your pigs? What else would have destroyed my pen and made off with my herd? And at the same time, the rest of the village is seeing 10-foot monster in the forest. He gives you an appraising look. I knew a few toughs like you during the Saints' War. I know it's too late to get my pigs back, but I'd set my mind at ease to see that thing's head shorn from its neck. In fact, you bring its ugly pate to me, and I'll trade you for something. That's of less use to a farmer like me than to a rowdy-looking sort like yourself. What do you know about the ogre? It's the same as any other, I'm sure. A big, ugly son of a bitch with a nasty temper and appetite to match. Trigel could tell you more. He claims to have seen it in the wood. You can find him in his shop, right by the broken tower. Need something else? I've been sent to find an Orlin named Knifer. Know where she is? Never heard of her. Oh. Maybe a little too late to be playing something like this. Pilgrim's Crown. Have I already read that one? Yeah, probably. Pilgrim's Crown. Where is it? Yep. Yeah, with the infatuated youth.
Steady does it.
Oh, no, don't want to steal. That Lord, bigger problem if the guards keep pushing us around. Heron's men already asked us about the girl. What more do they want? Winfried's pleasure enough, but once you get him talking... Winfried's arm and armory.
Shh.
My old man is a bad man, but I can't deny the way he holds my hand. You see a forest clearing, fog curling through the weeds on the ground in the cold morning air. The serenity of the scene is occasionally broken by a faint noise that echoes through the silence. This woman emerges from the trees and stops, dropping to the ground. She creeps to the edge of the clearing and crouches near a tree. She glances around furtively, listening intently in the growing light. She presses her back to the tree, tensing against it, ready to spring forward. From the distance comes another sound, a rustling in the undergrowth, and at that she shoots forward, keeping as low to the ground as she can. She puts a hand to her throat and makes a sound, a shrill bird call, but what emerges from her mouth seems to emanate from yards away. From behind her, near the source of the rustling, there is a brief grunting noise that is quickly silenced. She dives into a large bush at the edge of the tree line, keeping her head down and wriggling silently through the leaves and twigs. She takes a position in the bushes, turning to face the direction she came. She raises her hand again, this time mimicking a stelgar, placing the roar directly behind the men failing to sneak up on her. More than one voice answers this call, all of them sounding panicked and hurried, all of them quickly moving away, all thoughts of stealth forgotten. She backs out from under the bush to crouch behind it. As she pulls her bow from her back, she takes a shooting stance and waits for her hunters to appear. Okay.
Gods keep you.
A portly, smiling man stands behind a warped wooden counter, polishing a buckler. He looks up. Haven't seen you before. Always glad to see a new face in town. Company's good for business and chatter's good for the soul. That's what I always say. Anyhow, what can I do for you? What's going on in Deerford? We're a quiet little town. Not much happens here, especially not since the legacy hit. People realized they couldn't have babies and just stopped trying altogether. And that takes a lot of excitement out of the day-to-day, if you can believe it. I thought it's like to show me what you have for sale. Oh, he doesn't sell camping kits, huh? That's interesting. $1,000 copper for that special weapon. 200 for that one. That's all we got. Can't even go here. Oh, you can go to their foot crossing here. Look briefly through you as if she doesn't know you were there. This middle-aged peasant woman is dressed in a brown leather cloth, draped down to her knees. Her hands are working at separating stringy, colorless vegetables in a pile before her, stripping the heads off the long fibrous stems with a paring knife. She discards the stems one by one, placing the head of the vegetable into a small cradle-like basket in front of her. She doesn't greet you as you approach. You're not sure if she even knows you're there. I'm hoping to ask you some questions. The woman doesn't respond. She keeps stripping the heads from the vegetables with a steady rhythm. She may be deaf. There's no indication she heard you. Study the woman. At first glance, she seems nothing more than a middle-aged woman, unremarkable, maybe less stern than most, who seems more focused on the weaving in her lap than her surroundings. Yet you suddenly notice she's not stripping the vegetables before her anymore. Any longer, she's weaving, and the vegetable pots are now missing. She still pays you no mind, her brown locks torn and snagged from the lack of washing. Like many of the town folks you have seen, there's a strange blur to her. Even the motions of her hands seem to be playing with threads that lack color, in shape that lacks interest. It may be that she is half-minded or deaf, but something feels wrong, and you watch. Her knitting takes an odd cadence, and you have a terrible suspicion that something lurks beneath what your eyes are showing you. Focus on the woman. Her brown hair is long, almost impossibly to the length of her hands. As you follow the streams of her locks downwards, the hair becomes long and black, splitting off into threads of black and silver, and wrapping around her hands. She is forming a soul cradle with the threads, braiding a net in front of you, each finger long and sharp like a series of knitting needles, almost hypnotic. The silver and black strands of her hair weave together, with silver predominating as a highlight, the black shadowing it. And suddenly you're calm. You're on a plateau, almost the height of a tower, several stories high. The plateau is like a table lying beneath the clear sky, and beneath the plateau, surrounding it in all directions, a forest, hazy with mist, although whether there's actual mist or distance or recollection. Resting in the curve of a natural arch above you is a great copper bell, half again the size of a man, hanging at attention, as if looking down on you and the event unfolding before you. The plateau has soaked in the sun, and the rock beneath you is rough and warm. The sky forms a cradle around you, and you feel different, not disembodied, but you feel your body, your physical contours have changed along with the surroundings. And you hear a soft series of chimes, like wind chimes. At the sound of the scene gains color and texture, as if the sound is beckoning you gently forth, filling your senses and thoughts, like mist rolling softly in a sealed chamber. And focus on the chimes. The chime coaxes you deeper into the memory, and you're certain it is a memory, a warm one. You're on the stone of the plateau, your knees on the warm texture of the ground, silver, white, shimmering like Adra. The plateau is form of it, glistening in the sun. You can feel the heat of your skin, your wrists, and your hands. Your hands are in motion, weaving, not thread, but gathering, tenderly moving along the first movement of Bara's wheel. Your hands are wet. Your hands are upon the flesh of a newborn child, and you can feel the crowning of a tiny head, turning in your grip, its head slick, wet from the womb. That's disgusting. The hands you are wearing, inhabiting, have done this many times, and they are practiced and confident. You can feel distant pains in your own head as the head emerges, a stream of fluid from the womb helping the newborn slide forth, and a woman's labored breathing, crying out. Focus on the child, the movement of your hands. As your hands move, you hear the sounds of chimes, clear, cutting through the haze of memory. You cannot see where they're coming from. Don't you hate that when you're about to sneeze and then it canceled itself out? But they're close and they're meant as a comfort. Of that you are certain. Draw the child forth, and coaxes by your hand, every movement causing the chimes to sound again. Almost eagerly, the child comes forth, and as it does, your hands are in motion, weaving, moving along the length of a soft, wet rope. No, and an umbilical cord from the legs of the naked woman before you. You're holding a small child, still wet from the womb. They like describing that. Before you. The child cries out, its cry full of life, full of soul, the ringing of chimes echoing in its thoughts, filling it with its welcome. The soul is blurred at the edges, and if you are viewing a soul from within the soul, but it is there, it is alive. The woman before you is weeping, and at her first cry, her hands reach out for it. Surrender the child. You surrender the child to her, something you have done many times before, and as your hands move, the chimes echo the movement. And you realize the chimes are hanging from cords of your wrists, and where once they echoed in the memory, they are now echoing in the child's mind as well. The chimes are intended to welcome the child, to be its first gentle greeting into the world, a soothing sound guided by the tender motions of your wrists. You are helping to weave its thoughts, its perceptions, and the experience. The woman laughs with ragged joy, laughing from a parched throat. Her emotions seem soothed, but the physical demands of labor have left her exhausted. But the child is here. The child is safe. And all atop the plateau is peaceful, calm, distant, flattering out the memory persists. Slowly pull back, retreat from the memory. With effort, the scene bleeds a color, and your mind becomes your own again. There is no pull, no anchor, yet the sound of the chimes remains. As they existed in the memory, they sound here as well, and they're hanging from woven braids on the wrists of the woman before you. Even as your head is spinning from the touch of her mind, the sound of the chimes on her wrists is sharp and clear, as if coaxing you back to the real world. The woman still sits before you, but she is nothing like what you first saw. She is wearing black, shredded garment, and the drape over her form like streamers. Her hair is streaks of black and run through with silver. Her age is almost impossible to tell. She simply feels old, like a crumbled watchtower. As she lifts her head to face you, you see that her hair is draped across the front of her face, like a veil. What you first saw of her was a mental glamour of some sort, unconscious, and you realize what you see is not what the world sees, and you perhaps the first to see her true self. Still, you don't sense a threat in the realization. If anything, you feel a sense of relief from the figure. You can hear her thoughts, and she is glad to at least be seen. What did you do to me?
I am seen, but the eyes of others do not remember. You were the first to see me as I am, the call stripped aside.
There's a light touch of your mind, a caress, and her left hand mirrors the motion of the touch, reaching up to the air between you. You hear the chime on her wrist sound softly. Her hand moves as if pantomiming, resting on your cheek at a distance, and she speaks slowly and softly.
Your memories. A cadence of wheels on a caravan track. Fever. Questions by running water. Violence in a night's campfire. Arrows in the dark. And fleeing. Falling rock and cracking stone. And a storm. The storm. The storm that brushed you.
Heroes of the storm?
Does its screaming wake you from your mind's cradle? Your memory of it is painful. Its cry is difficult to ignore. It's like a child. Many children crying out.
I encountered the bivouac, yes, and it did something to me. Her hand withdraws shyly, the chimes sounding softly once again. The woman stands, uncertainly, as if she had been sitting for some time, or is too weak to bear her own weight. You notice her cheekbones are tight, her face gaunt, yet while her stance is weak, she seems determined to stand before you.
You are able to see me.
It is almost a question. You suddenly realize she doesn't seem to know what you saw when you looked at her. The image on the plateau, yet the image was so clear, so sharp. You're surprised she didn't feel you
To
there.
see me is a rare gift. A watcher's gift.
Yeah, we do it all the time though with the living person. How was I able to enter your dream?
So many questions, thoughts, whirling like storm winds. That storm still roars through you, deep beneath your thoughts, yet muted and secret, like an underground river. I cannot tell if it is carving new channels, or eroding what keeps your true strength buried. The fact that you could hear it at all, survive it, is something few have ever done. Your power will grow stronger with each soul you touch, as it allowed you to reach out to mine.
There is a silence, and although it seems to last for but a heartbeat, in your thoughts it stretches out between the two of you, like a pull between your minds. You blink, you take a breath, and then you realize she wants to ask you a question, yet can't form the words, as if assembling them is painful, or there simply are not enough pieces. Do you wish to travel with me? You feel a wave of fear, gusted with the strength of relief, although oddly her expression does not change. Then fear dissipates, and you feel strength and certainty, as if the plateau from her memory lies beneath you, and a calm sky looks down upon you. Huh. What is she? She's a cipher. Who should I replace her? Who should she replace? I like Aloth. Of course, I like Ether.
Safe travels.
Maybe Kara.
Your thoughts must flow deeply indeed. Your mind comes bearing questions, Watcher.
I have questions for you. Let your mind speak for you. I shall listen past the words. You addressed me as a watcher when we first met. Do you know what a watcher is? There's a slow chill, and for a moment, it seems as if she is going to fade from your vision, as if she can't bear to be seen.
The title came unbidden. I do not know why I spoke of it. Yet it seemed the right mantle, a familiar one.
Her name is as Grieving Mother, yet I do not know where it came from, if I have given offense. Oddly enough, it feels like she's not speaking to you. It feels like she's speaking to an audience. The air takes on a curious edge, a chill, which persists for a short moment, then fades into a dull fear. If I have given offense, forgive me. Forgive me. You would know more than I. Have you encountered watchers before? I did not know. It is an old feeling. I did not know where it stems from. It was a word that arose when you saw me. It is said that watchers see much that others do not. And I have been hidden from the eyes of others for some time. How is it that no one can see you?
Their eyes see, but their minds will not remember past the cloak.
Call?
My face is like the call of a newborn, hiding the face beneath. And for my body, I am able to wrap myself as a mother cradling her child. I am here, as you see me, but to them, their eyes see only the cloak that I wear. A peasant mother, dirty, shabby, not worth knowing. As a watcher, you see more than others. To the eyes of most, I am as unseen as the spirits you share memories with.
How are you able to affect minds? I divert the flow of their senses down a different path to a place easily forgotten. It is not unwelcome when one does not desire the presence of others. The surface of their minds register a figure, but the memory slips away. They see a woman, but there is no desire for conversation, no desire for questions, and I have none to ask. When we first met, how was I able to enter your dream?
I do not know. What do you speak of? If you were in my thoughts, I could not feel your presence, nor do I know what you saw there.
Finally, something in a characteristic that helps decode something in the game. Fighter. As she speaks, you suddenly feel an odd sensation in your mind, like the blood of the hunt welling up in you. You suddenly realize that whether she permits it or not, you could enter her dream and observe it without her knowing. There is something about her mind, like a weapons rack, where you could reach in and draw forth a blade if you wish and keep it as your own. And suddenly you find yourself back in your present thoughts. Though you were away for but a moment, she seems unaware of your diversion of thought. It may be one of your gifts, the ability to talk in memories as easily as someone walks upon the ground. Perhaps I wanted to see your memories again. You feel her slowly nod, though she makes no motion. My mind is open to you, as it was before when we met. I could not stop you if I wished. I do not want to impose. I seek your permission. My memory is not as it was. Much has been forgotten. If you would walk in my thoughts, I have nothing hidden. Her thoughts feel strangely apologetic and welcoming both at once. Perhaps you may learn something that will strengthen you, or a clue to what caused this terrible burning of the fields of souls in halted Bera's wheel. Her mind gives way. Your passage almost unnoticed as you enter her as before, circling the memory you shared when you first met. And suddenly you're calm. You're on a plateau. Oh, this is the same one, right? Yeah, this is just like if you want to read it again. With effort, the scene bleeds of color and your mind becomes your own again. The grieving mother stands silently before you. She seems unaware of what you've seen. Okay. I walked again in your dreams, thoughts, and I believe your memories. A mixture of curiosity and fear wells up between you. She raises her left hand, that chiming of at her wrist, quelling the rise within her. She is frightened, but curiosity anchors her.
And what did you see in my memories? I would hear you speak of them.
The dream, the memory I saw upon meeting you. It was you helping give birth to a child. There is silence, and as your breath falls still, you hear the faint cry of a child in the distance. A newborn child, almost exactly like what you heard in the dream. As you listen, the grieving mother raises both her hands, as if weaving, her wrists chiming as she does so. In a semblance of the gentle turning she provided while the newborn was crowning. To your surprise, you recognize the motions and the words from the memory, even as they are new to you. As she weaves her hands through the air in front of her, the child's cries grow still, yet the sound of the chimes weaves almost hypnotically into your thoughts. The sky seems sharp and clear, and you feel as if you are towering over your surroundings, as if kneeling atop a great pillar, just as she did in the memory. To your surprise, the grieving mother falls as if her strings were cut, and her knees crack hard against the ground. Her hands never cease moving in the air, the chimes echoing her movements. In a ragged voice, you hear her speak. The voice is that of a much older woman than the one before you, harsh, almost desperate.
Tell me what you saw. Show me what you saw. Where were you?
Her eyes, now terribly sharp and real, are filmed with white, silver white, like Adra. A mountain ledge, I think? It was high up. Snow, I think? She leans back as if looking back at the sky, but her eyes are closed, the film building on them. With a slow intake of breath, you feel time become quiet around you. I do not feel the memory. I do not know if it's mine, but her hair falls across her features again like a veil, and she nods, not with her chin, but a push in her mind. But thank you for trying. So if we say,
Tell me what you saw. Show me what you saw. Where were you?
she kneels before you on the ground. She whispers to you, hoarsely and even fainter with the distance between you.
Stone of the plateau. Its color. Tell me its color.
It was silver Adra, its surface warmed by the sun. As you watch, her hands rise before her. She clasps them, then cups them, as if feeling them for the first time, and she stares down into the cradle of her hands, and the chimes sound once, twice as they swing with movement.
And what did these hands hold?
Oh my god, she's asking us what was in the memory. The same chimes you hold now. She leans back and as if looking back to the sky, but her eyes are closed, the film building on them. With a slow intake of breath, you feel time become quiet around you. Okay, so that was wrong. So we have to keep guessing.
Tell me what you saw. Show me what. The stone of the plateau. And what did these hands hold?
The Hella mother while she gave birth painfully. She leans back. Okay, so that's not it.
Tell me what you saw. The stone of the plateau. And what did these hands hold?
I'm not sure. There was a child you were bringing forth in your hands. I don't recall. There's a sudden intake of breath and then a release. Her eyes blurred close, forming into slits. But in the brief glimpse you have of her changing expression, the rippling pain in the features seems to have smoothed. She swallows once, twice, and then you feel her once again in your thoughts, the rasping husk of her voice swallowed and drawn within her.
It was the birthing bell you saw. Has it been so long? Have I forgotten so much?
With the words comes a river of impulses, thoughts, as if loosed from a breaking dam, and as your mind wraps the impulses into words, you realize it is her muscles and her hardened thoughts relaxing and breathing again. There is such an intensity you almost want to step back from the flow, but you find the wave of impulses cause questions to float to the surface. Among them is the name Watcher. What is the birthing bell? Let your mind speak for you. I shall listen past the words. I heard the name Watcher in your thoughts, and when you remember the birthing bell. Why? Oh no. I think...
Your mind comes back. It is because I once believed I was one, and others believed I was one.
There's a slow chill, and for a moment, it seems as if she's going to fade from your vision, as if she can't bear to be seen. Why did you believe you were a watcher? The world has many corners, and in some corners, the name Watcher is well known. It is an easier title than others, and at times, it is easier to wear. Placing a title upon what is unknown can dispel the fear of it, and I did not fight it. I even believed it true. Though I knew little of the ways of watchers, it even granted me strength. I was able to see the thoughts of others, shape them, and help guide souls. Watchers seemed enough, and the name seemed to matter little in light of other acts. There's another name for someone with your abilities. Yeah, which? I see the word cipher, in your mind, and see its meaning, although I did not train in such things, and the title feels more of a cloak the world casts on me and judges me for. It is curious how a title such as that can define one, and at times be the source of such emotion that comes from no one, but the voices of others. It is a curse of the world. Do you know anything about watchers? I feel that they were once marked, hated. Such hate feels dim now. I can feel it. Others' hatreds have risen for other titles, but they burn bright into past. Now hates have shifted focus, and they may fall on the same again, either you or me. Can you tell me about the birthing bell?
It is a plateau formed of the spirit stone Audra. At its top is set a great bell, cradled in the reaching arm of the plateau. It stirs in the wind, and it sounds for leagues when struck by kick hands. In distant times, the great bell served as a Glenfathan watchtower, perhaps. Why they abandoned it, I do not know. Other men came in time, settlers, and claimed the tower as their own. I, in turn, claimed it from them. The pillar became a cradle where I could draw new souls into the world.
In your memory, were you helping a woman give birth?
Yes. Yet, I believe you only saw a small part of the birthing ritual. It is not all in a moment, nor in a day. It is a journey of many years between the child, the mother, and I.
There was much I could do to aid the mother. Some sought the physical comforts of ritual to steady their thoughts, even Adra from the bell. Others would seek advice, words of counsel for the days ahead. I was able to provide draughts, tinctures, and a reading of the child's spirit, all to strengthen the mother. Can you tell me about the birthing ritual?
The ritual was one of many steps. It took many tens of years to carve them, but always the child's thoughts were there to guide her from the moment it began to awaken, to the 3 seasons within the mother, to the birthing day, and the years to follow. The child's thoughts, that is where it began. The expectant mother, I could often sense her thoughts, and those of her child, before she could. I would soothe her, free her from the panic of questions. I would sound the memory of the birthing bell atop the plateau in her mind, letting the memory of the vibrations fill my thoughts and hers. Often, the child's soul could hear it too, so the sound of the bell echoed in the mother's thoughts.
You sense the mother's thoughts. Sharing memories and thoughts can bond lives together, as can hardships, and most of all, the sharing of what is familiar. The bell itself provided shelter for such thoughts, opportunities to see deep into the crevice, hollows in the rock where one could find shelter, clefts where you could feel the Aedra all around you. As she speaks, you feel your legs bent, crossed, and the warmth of walls around you, and blankets woven thick beneath you. Such shared image can bond souls even tighter and allow them to draw strength from each other. You mentioned the ritual lasted years. What would happen after the birth? Once the pain is channeled away, the mother and child breathe again. I sound the birthing bells on my wrists and allow the mother to hear the child's thoughts, the ringing echoing in each other's thoughts. The bells open the way between them. Let her feeling pass into the newborn, and let her feel the child in return. And when the feelings meet, that is when I weave another memory and leave it tied to their minds. Did these bells play an important role in the birthing rituals? Yes, and for years after. I gave a set to the child after delivery. It is a reminder of the memory the mother and child shared. You feel an odd sensation, a warmth, and you can feel a smile being shared. Then it flickers, and it is gone. As the bells coax the child forth, so they accompany the child onwards, fastened about the wrists, to care for him in mind and body. There is no magic in it except the magic of practicality. If a child sought to leave their cradles or escape their cribs, the mother could know through the warning of the chimes alone. At times, if the bond was strong, so would I. The sensation of a smile comes again, slower, more knowing, between you. If not watch, children, much trouble they may had from tiny hands. The chimes are kept until the child needs them no longer, when I no longer can hear them sounding in my mind. I know their spirit has changed, and the bonds we shared are long gone. This shedding may last many years, or but a few, but it is necessary. You watch over these children for years after their births. Children are fragile things. Even the ties of blood and mind may not be enough. There must be watch, and even then, the body may fail the mind. But if you watch, even the most sickly child may cling to life if determined enough, and many of their souls were tied to me. If a child's spirit failed, I could sound the chimes in their minds and grant them strength, even from afar. It did not always serve, but it gave hope. It sounds like you've seen tragedy too. Enough to never wish to feel it again. In the times before the bell, children who died were cast upon the waters of the lake beyond the bell. Sometimes while alive, if their pasts and futures were deemed weak. It was a different time. Children were treated carelessly. Those times are past. Now I have a question about the birthing bell. Why would you give a telling of a child's spirit?
Many would come seeking their child's future, or a reading into the child's past, the lives its soul is said to have lived.
There is a slow chill And for a moment, it seems as if she's going to fade from your vision, as if she can't bear to be seen, and there's a spike of fear, alarm.
Such things are not mine to see. I meant no offense.
Oddly enough, it feels like she's not speaking to you. Oh, this is like the same one. Oh, a little different. Oddly enough, it feels like she's not speaking to you. It feels like she's speaking to an audience. The air takes a curious edge, a chill. Yeah, I read that one already. You feel the word watcher sounding in your mind. You're frightened. Something about watchers. As the thought of watchers crosses your mind, you feel a sharp pain, stabbing, and then sudden burn of lashes across the back and shoulder. And then it is gone. And you feel the grieving mother before you, silent, almost fearful, wary.
I was something else, but because the title Watcher was cast on me, the word carried a weight I had neither earned nor deserved. The world seems filled with such titles. They distract, I think, from the actions of the person, from their strengths.
Why did you believe you were a watcher? Did I already ask her that?
The world has many corners, and in some corners,
Yeah,
I was able to see the thoughts of others, shape them, and help guide souls. Watcher seemed enough, and the name seemed to matter little in the light of one's acts.
But, and this part is new, if they came to you to read their child's souls, what did you tell them?
I drew upon the present. I felt the soul of the mother before me, and used that to tell the child's path, to give it a voice. If only the thoughts of the mother and the emotions that lie beneath were mine to impart. I did, and so I used that as the telling of their child's future.
And if it turned out to be untrue?
Futures fulfilled by one's own spirit are as strong as anything seen by another's eyes. And if one draws from the emotion of the mother, it matters only when harm is done. And their lives I knew well. I could weave their lives, their thoughts over time, to the mother, to the child. And once the child had been born, was sheltered, I could relax the threads of thought until the child could stand on its own.
So you shaped their thoughts, made the readings true.
This is my calling, to show them the life I see before them, and even greater, make them believe it.
That is not what a watcher does. We do not shape minds, we see them as they are.
Even the most strongly worded tells may not be enough to save a child and allow it to be born. If I have the strength to strip away the stem of a mother's spite to expose kindness, weave nurturing from disdain and neglect, then that is my calling. And with the weight of Watcher behind my thoughts, these tells gain strength. Strength I never possessed on my own. They believed. And what they believed became the truth. With each child that was set upon that path, the title of Watcher became stronger. You must understand, without such weight upon my words, many lives would have been lost, drowned, cast in the lake beyond the bell. Now the trail to the lake is lost and reclaimed by the forest, as was meant. A Watcher was not there to look over us, but it was a Watcher that saved them, and with a Watcher's strength, children were born, were cared for, and grew strong.
To inflict your will on another, that is not reading, that is control.
What use is a frightened will when spirit is at stake? Would you let the fears of a mother end her newborn's life? You felt it in the memory, the weight of it, the importance of the child's life. It was a memory we shared.
Did we share that memory, or did you inflict it on me? And suddenly, there's a rasping cry across your consciousness. She raises her hands, and you see the chimes draped from them, yet they make no sound as she moves.
Greater good was done, and children were saved. It is a choice you may be forced to make one day, and when faced with it, you will make the same one.
I refuse to exercise that kind of control over others, even for a greater good. When that happens, I'll be making my own choices. I like that better.
This choice is not yours to make, Watcher. You will do as the world needs, as its children need. It is greater than you and your twist of sight.
I wanted to know more about
It
you.
is because I once believed I was one.
Oh, hold on.
And I you. In asking, we reveal ourselves to each other.
What do you think of Deerwood and the Empire? Those titles are markings on a map and channel people's minds in violent directions. Such things are a threadbare blanket cast over the world where men and women seek more importance than simply being. How do you see the world then? The world is a field of souls, tilled by Berat's wheel. The thought of cultures and territories do not concern me. The sowing and harvest of the field does. Berat's wheel has slowed, perhaps stopped altogether. Whatever words, titles, laws, and blades do not devote it to carving away the harm, or healing that wound holds little importance to me. Why are you called the grieving mother? The air seems to go still for a moment, and time stretches as it did before when the two of you first met. There is a wash of uncertainty from her mind, slowly shaping into questions. The swirl do not coalesce. She does not move. She seems paralyzed, as if you just wrapped her in a cold blanket.
That is a question for you, not I. That is not my name, although if you wish to hang the title on me, I cannot stop you. Is that what you see when your eyes fall upon me?
So, I named you? As a watcher, you may see what I do not, or your mind shapes the thought I project into a new meaning. There is truth in that title, but it is not all I am. So what do you grieve? What do you grieve then? You must have felt it, seen it. It has many names, as the pain it has caused. As the words take shape, they seem to tumble from her, and the wave is great, rushing into your mind. To your surprise, you feel as if you've been touched by the bivouac again, and behind it, cutting through the torrent like a knife, are the thoughts of the grieving mother. There is a wound cut across the belly of the world, a jagged knife that has stripped the stems from men and carved furrows across the wombs of women. There is much I have forgotten, but I can feel the wound all around me. I will not let me rest, not let me be. The children have gone silent, yet their voices may be heard again. Are you speaking of the Hollowborn? The word, there is a slowness of thoughts, as if the word is being weighted, accepted. It doesn't feel natural to her, you can sense it. Was once known to me as much of what unfolded in the outside world. When the curse came upon us, I thought it is a smaller thing, a thing of communities and hearths. Her thoughts seemed to stumble as if on weak legs. It was only when I walked did I feel it stretching out around me in all the cracks of the world. Children have been cursed. I do not think it was something they caused, nor something deserved. That which is inside them has been torn away. I do not know how, but this wound must be stitched closed. The whorls bleed forth from between a woman's legs. If this blood is not stemmed, the world will die and grow quiet. Do you know its cause? There is a desperation, a welling fear. You can almost feel her thoughts shivering. and you realize she's as lost as you are on the matter, and then a sudden sharp clarity. I shall know it through you. Your eyes will track the cause, find the path, and I will be beside you. There is no wound that cannot be healed, and if you're truly a watcher, then this wound may be seen for what it is. You saw me where I did. Whoever's hands have stilled the words, you shall see them too. And if there's no way to heal, then what? I will be there, and you will do what must be done. You were given your sight so that you may watch the world, and you will tend with it. The children shall have their voice again. If your will is weak, then I shall strengthen it. Lean upon me. You feel the weight in her words, as if her hands are on your shoulders. You feel the questions in your mind lose their edge and become merely words, as I lean upon you. You shall be my eyes, and I shall be your hands when the time comes. Dream and memory. I met a strange woman whom I know only as a grieving mother. She's a powerful cipher who shrouds herself from plain view. Yet even though her mind experienced a powerful communion, I know little about her or where she came from. Interesting. So what is her powers? Let's see here. So they have cipher magic, huh? Mind wave. So they're like a spellcaster. Okay. So, and I'm getting very sleepy actually. That was a really long conversation with grieving mother. But I was getting kind of sleepy like in the beginning, so I might miss like a little bit of detail. But yeah, there was a really strange conversation, huh, with her, because they're talking in riddles and shit. Like they're not saying something in a literal sense. But yeah, that was really interesting. Like two crazy people talking to each other was what that felt like. But basically, I think like in the journal actually explains it simply. She used to be what you call that person who helps with women give birth. What is that word? What is that terminology? Escaped me. Tip of my tongue. Midwife. There you go. She was a midwife. Interesting character though, for sure. Let's see. So she needs to be in the back with him. Okay. Okay, let's program her AI. I think hold on.
Your thoughts must flow deeply indeed.
Well, I have a do crowd control.
You don't want what I have, Watcher. Some flames spread easier than others.
So she uses focus, huh? Focus on me.
Your thoughts must flow deeply indeed.
Yeah, I don't know how she uses that. Focus. Focus on me. She's using a dagger. She needs to be in the back. There you go. Alright, well, I'm going to stop here. Yeah, that was really interesting. So this stream was basically mostly about connecting with the grieving mother here. Interesting character for sure. Yeah, I haven't played this in a while, so I just want to make sure that I play it. I'm too busy with that PS5. You know, playing the games I have for it. Still need to test some of my PS4 games. Check out the improvements, like Shadow of the Colossus remastered. I think I can play that 60 FPS now, so I really want to check that out. But yeah, this game is really good. I'm just sleepy. I kind of wish that we did more during this session, but like I just couldn't stop talking to her. It was like really fascinating. It was really fascinating. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. What time is it? Okay, yeah. Oh, it's not even midnight, but yeah. Kinda tired. Till next time.